Sparks cascaded like a welding curtain gone rogue, showering Jace Corvin's back as he slammed the maglock home. The bulkhead groaned under the assault of plasma fire from the other side, the metal screaming as it warped. He wasn't a soldier. He was a systems tech. But right now, he was the only thing standing between the heir to the Valkyr Empire and total vaporization. Kaya, the Valkyr matriarch in waiting, stared at him, her violet eyes wide with a mixture of confusion and adrenaline. For a species known colloquially as the galaxy's Space Orcs, towering, dense muscle warriors bred for combat, she looked uncharacteristically stunned. She reached out, her hand hovering over the fresh burn on his shoulder, the electricity of the near touch making the hair on his arms stand up. "You bleed," she whispered, the rumble of her voice vibrating through the floor, plating, resonant, and deep. "Why didn't you run, Terran?" Jace gritted his teeth, bypassing the door's safety overrides to fuse the mechanism shut with his multi-tool. He could feel the heat radiating from her, a physical force that was almost as overwhelming as the fire outside. "Because," he panted, locking eyes with the terrifyingly beautiful apex predator, "humanity doesn't leave its partners behind." The door buckled. The heat rose. 6 hours earlier, the only thing heating up on Nexus 9 was the diplomatic tension. Jace sat behind the translucent displays of the maintenance deck, monitoring the environmental stabilizing field. The Galactic Council had convened on this neutral platform to discuss the integration of the Terran Alliance. Most species viewed humans as scrappy upstarts, a mild curiosity in a grand science fiction story that had been running for eons without them. Through the feed, Jace watched the Valkyr delegation arrive. They were magnificent and terrifying. Kaya walked at the front, her ceremonial armor gleaming under the harsh station lights. She moved with the predatory grace of a death welder, every step a silent promise of violence if provoked. "Look at them," his supervisor muttered, chewing nervously on a stim stick. "One wrong move and they dismantle the station. I don't know why we're even here. We aren't warriors. Power is easy. Partnership is hard," Jace murmured, quoting an old Earth adage as he adjusted the localized gravity for the Valkyr corridor. He watched Kaya pause on the screen, tilting her head as if she sensed the adjustment, the subtle consideration of human ingenuity making her path easier. Besides, the most dangerous weapon was a handshake. If we can get them to sign, we don't have to fight them. The negotiations were boring until they weren't. It didn't start with a scream, but with a shudder. A low-frequency thump that Jace felt in his molars before the alarms even registered. The main promenade, where the Valkyr were transiting, dissolved into white static on his monitors. Explosion in Sector 4. The supervisor was already out of his chair, face pale. "Evacuation protocols, Jace. Get to the pods." Jace watched the sensor readouts. The structural integrity in Sector 4 was failing. The atmospheric scrubbers were offline. In the chaos of the feed, he saw the Valkyr guards down and a singular tall figure trapped beneath a collapsed support beam. The other delegates were fleeing, abandoning the scary aliens to their fate. It was the logical choice. It was the safe choice. But the Terran spirit didn't operate on logic alone. It operated on a stubborn refusal to let the universe decide who lives and who dies. "Go!" Jace said, grabbing his heavy-duty fusion cutter and a medkit. "Corvin, you're a tech, not a marine. That's a suicide run. Soft power!" Jace yelled over the rising siren, sprinting toward the lift instead of the pods. "Influence often outlasts force." He didn't look back. He ran straight into the smoke, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. The corridors were a blur of panicked diplomats and flashing emergency lights. He vaulted over debris, sliding under a jamming blast door just before it sealed. The air grew hot, tasting of ozone and burning circuitry. When he reached the promenade, it was an inferno. The attackers, mercenaries hired to destabilize the talks, were pinning down the survivors. And there she was, Kaya, pinned, weaponless and fierce, snarling at the approaching mercenaries. She needed an army. She got a systems tech with a very bad plan. The bulkhead hissed, glowing cherry red before detonating inward. Jace tackled Kaya, driving them both behind a heavy plasteel shipping crate as the corridor filled with the stinging ozone scent of plasma discharge. The heat was immediate and suffocating. He was pressed tight against her, the vibration of her growl resonating against his chest. For a moment, the terrifying reality of the situation vanished, replaced by the electric proximity of the Valkyr air. Her skin was fever-hot, her violet eyes dilated with the combat instinct of an apex predator denied a hunt. "Give me your blade, Terran," she snarled, her hand gripping his shoulder hard enough to bruise. "I will buy you time to flee." "No," Jace yelled over the whine of charging capacitors. He wasn't fleeing, he was typing. "We don't trade lives, we change the physics." The mercenaries breached the smoke, their armor bulky and menacing. They raised their rifles, expecting a firefight. They were prepared for guards. They were prepared for soldiers. They were not prepared for a pissed-off systems administrator with root access to the station's heavy industry protocols. "Logistics as defense," Jace muttered, slamming his thumb onto the execute command. The corridor didn't explode. It woke up. Emergency repair protocols initiated. A synthetic voice announced, pleasantly calm amidst the violence. "Foreign contaminants detected. Sterilizing." High-velocity welding drones dropped from the ceiling panels like metal spiders. They weren't programmed to kill. They were programmed to disassemble slag and weld hull fractures. To the station's AI, the mercenaries' armor was just debris blocking the hallway. The lead mercenary screamed as a drone latched onto his rifle and sheared it in half with a precision laser cutter. Another drone pinned a second attacker to the wall, dispensing rapid hardening construction foam that solidified instantly, trapping him in a block of grey matter. The hallway became a blur of motion machinery, moving faster than organic reflexes could track. Jace didn't watch the carnage. He watched Kaya. She was staring at the spectacle, then at him. The confusion in her eyes had melted into something sharper, something magnetic. "You weaponized the maintenance crew," she breathed, the realization dawning on her. "Space Orcs break things," Jace panted, leaning back against the crate as the drones finished their work. "Humans fix them, sometimes aggressively." The great hall of the Galactic Council was bright, a stark contrast to the smoky corridor. The air was crisp, circulating through vents Jace had personally calibrated a week ago. The Valkyr matriarch stood on the central dais, a towering figure of regality and raw power. The entire chamber held its breath. The surviving mercenaries were bound in the center, living testaments to a failed coup. Kaya stood by her mother's side, her armor scorched but her head high. She looked out at the assembly, then locked eyes with Jace. The Terran did not fire a shot. The matriarch's voice boomed, silencing the murmurs of the gathered species. He did not use a warrior's blade. He used the station itself. He proved that the strongest fortress is not built of guns, but of systems. She turned her gaze to the human delegation, who looked pale but hopeful. "We value strength," the matriarch continued, "but we have learned that strength without intelligence is merely noise. This human shielded my heir when he could have run. He refused unearned power to build a lasting trust." Jace stepped forward. His uniform was torn and he smelled of smoke, but he felt the strange, steady rhythm of the Terran spirit anchoring him. "We don't conquer, we integrate," Jace said, his voice carrying to the upper tiers. "Power is easy, partnership is hard, but if you want a galaxy that works, you need architects, not just conquerors." The matriarch descended the steps, the heavy thud of her boots echoing like a drum. She stopped in front of Jace and extended a hand, a massive clawed hand capable of crushing stone. "Then build with us, architect," she said. "The Valkyr Empire votes to grant humanity a permanent seat on the High Council." Jace took her hand. The grip was firm, a bridge between two worlds that had almost gone to war. The cameras flashed, capturing the moment. As the applause began, a wave of relief washing over the room. Kaya stepped down to stand beside him. She leaned in close, the scent of smoke and ozone still clinging to her. "You saved my life, Jace Corvin," she murmured, her voice a low purr that sent a fresh jolt of electricity down his spine. "But next time I choose the weapon." Jace smiled, the adrenaline fading into a warm, steady glow. "Deal."